Louis 7.
Out of every foe Sly and the gang have faced throughout their adventures, there is one who's always had this ominous, mysterious nature. The one we think of would be none other than Clockwerk. Hello everyone, I am Vivi, and welcome to the channel. For longtime gamers and especially newcomers, you've maybe, just maybe, have asked yourselves at least once, is there more than meets the eye? Is there more to Clockwerk which we are unaware of? Before we begin, a cool reminder that the whole Sly trilogy is now available on PS4 and PS5 via PS Plus Premium. Do not fret. You can actually purchase these without the need of a premium subscription. Having Sly Cooper on current gen not only allows longtime fans to re-experience this series, but also allows newcomers to try out this fantastic, beloved series. And so, with that said and done, let's get back to the video. We're all aware at this point that Clockwerk had this feeling of pure hatred and jealousy towards the Cooper clan, so much as to even mention how he's kept himself alive for hundreds of years, awaiting the day to finally end the Cooper line. Well, at least their thieving reputation, so he says. At first glance, you might have been like, well, I guess that makes sense, but if you actually pause and think, too many questions start to arise. Let's go over a few. First and foremost, how does this all even make sense, you might ask? Second, if he hated the Coopers and was so jealous of them, how was he not able to just end the Cooper clan right from the get-go, especially considering his huge metal figure? We also can't forget how he was able to deal with Sly's parents when Sly was only 8. It's presumed, well depicted, that the Fiendish Five as a group took the lives of 2 people that night. But point still stands, however. Clockwerk was their leader. He ordered his goons to break into Sly's home and ultimately took the lives of Sly's parents. Another one, if Clockwerk hates the Cooper so much, as Sly put it, why let him live? Clockwerk in this scene explains that he wanted to show the world that without their precious Thievius Raccoonus, the Coopers were nothing. During this moment, he shows signs of jealousy and wants to prove a point, but he also hates them. Enough hatred in that metallic heart of his to want to take away lives. All this talk about fountain of youth, steady diet of jealousy and hate, we all ask ourselves, why? Clockwerk used to be an organic life form. All this, turning himself robotic to merely prove a point? That the Coopers are nothing without the book? Not hundreds. We're talking about thousands of years, technically. He'd kept himself alive since at least 1350 BC or so. That was during Slight Uncommon's time. Clockwerk explained that the Coopers always found a way to beat him. With dedication, he's still here. Well, was until we dealt with him. Or did we? Just how much info was written about Clockwerk in that book? Looking at the Thievius Raccoonus, we never knew which pages Clockwerk stole. Now there is the final vault with Owl dialect, but do recall, each member of the Fiendish Five had extra sets of pages on them, not counting the vaults in their respective locations. So you really wonder, if the same applies to Clockwerk, which pages were on him? Were these pages about him specifically? How to defeat him every time or something else entirely? Lots of questions. How about another? One thing we also can't wrap our heads around, how in the world did Clockwerk even reach such a robotic state? From the looks of it, he's way too technologically advanced for his supposed debut in ancient Egypt. One way to try to understand this, Clockwerk would have to originate from the future. If we look at Thieves in Time, Clockwerk appears as an Easter egg in every time period. Him being present in Bob's period, 10,000 BC, the theory of him being from the future could work. If we simply look at it as an Easter egg with not much relevance to the actual narrative, then question still remains. How did he turn robotic in ancient time? Is this a case of slowly transitioning from organic to metal as centuries went by? Is this the case of starting from the heart and slowly transitioning to other parts of the body? There's that one treasure in Thieves in Time, one with his name engraved under it. The description mentions the possibility of this belonging to an owl, a mysterious metal alloy at that. Just makes his origin from supposed ancient times even more mysterious. Thieves in Time originally had Ancient Egypt DLC planned. This was revealed back in late 2019 during an interview with Kinda Funny Games and developer Sanzaru Games. Unfortunately, plans for that DLC never happened. They had a script, and who knows what the writers had planned back then. All we do know is that Sanzaru had plans for Sly's Egyptian ancestor. There's even concepts drawn by environment and character designer Paul Sullivan, which seem to look like ancient Egypt. Would we have uncovered secrets about Clockwerk? If Clockwerk truly originated from ancient Egypt, did Sly, who's stuck there, unintentionally do something in the past to fuel the owl's hatred? Makes one wonder, doesn't it?
Immortal and
The Sly series is no stranger to themes such as the supernatural, mystics, dark magic even, ghosts or souls of the deceased in Contessa's level, a tangled web in Sly 2, the Mask of Dark Earth in Sly 3's second episode, Rumble Down Under, the Guru from said episode, with the ability to morph into surrounding objects using his Moonstone. Let's not forget one of the members of the Fiendish Five, Miss Ruby, the power to summon the dead, and the fact she can shoot literal energy. Clockwerk himself, although at first glance it might not even make you question it, but you really have to wonder. That hate chip of his, yes, it's fueled by supposed hate, but the moment Carmelita crushed it, as Sly put it, it's like time caught up with the body. It all rotted away like it was nothing. Although we didn't deal with Clockwerk himself in Sly 2, it was Neela inside what we call the frame. The fact that the hate chip is what kept the body in tip-top shape is where the mystery lies. Or is it really a mystery? Considering dark magic being a thing in the series, would it be far-fetched to believe that Clockwerk's hate chip was embedded with dark magic, perhaps by the hands of someone we've never met or heard of? If you really think about it, how does hate, a negative emotion, have the ability to power a giant owl for centuries? Would dark magic come into play? It's as if the spell was broken or escaped the hate chip, causing Clockwerk's parts to wither away. If Clockwerk needed hate to survive, a diet of jealousy and hate as he put it, is there something we're unaware of? Let's look at it this way. In order for genuine hate to exist within Clockwerk's metallic heart, a Cooper needs to remain alive. The fountain of youth he spoke of could be just that. A fountain has a continuous flow of water. In Clockwerk's case, that continuous flow of water is his own feelings, always being jealous and hating the presence of a Cooper. It's not that he wanted to show the world that the Coopers were nothing without the book, it's that he needed to make sure that a Cooper was alive, to remind him of how much hatred he has within his heart, enough to continuously fuel his hate chip. In a sense, Clockwerk created himself his own prison, living on for centuries with that constant pain and reminder of how he despises a certain clan, unable to escape. Yes, this theory might fall flat, with Clockwerk trying to get rid of Sly once and for all. But think again. Clockwerk pretty much acts as a computer. Who knows? All that conscience of his could be backed up somewhere, awaiting the day to finally reawaken. Perhaps he knew he had a backup, a way to finally escape his own prison. The Thievius Raccoonus began in ancient Egypt. This book was created by Sly Cooper I. One could argue about the book's appearance throughout the years, whether it was rewritten, updated, or anything of such sort really. After all, this is ancient Egypt we're talking about. Scrolls like papyrus is what was used as written communication. Surely the book must have gone through multiple iterations. The point we're trying to get at here, Clockwerk, who's lived for centuries, must have at least heard of this scroll or book called the Thievius Raccoonus. Going off what we know during Sly's encounter with Clockwerk, he makes it sound like he recently discovered this Thievius Raccoonus. But as we just discussed, surely the owl must have at least heard of this book in some shape or form. What would make more sense here is to believe that Clockwerk knew of its existence, but simply did not care or believe it to be important until a certain point in time. That point in time being the night of the attack at Sly's home. Are we simply to believe Clockwerk found the location of the book by himself? Or is there an outside force at play here? There's a certain someone Sly has come across, someone who completely seemed to despise Sly's father. He had spent years on a remote location called Cane Island, doing anything in his power to try and break through the Cooper vault full of riches. The one we refer to here is Dr. M, previous brains of the former Cooper gang. This place was supposed to be kept secret. This is purely going off the fact that a map to this island was hidden away by the former Cooper gang's muscle, Mick Sweeney. For those unaware, in Comic Issue 2, published in 2005, Sly visited Mick Sweeney, who had decided to pretty much turn himself in and enjoy a solo life in prison. If this island was such a secret, then how did Dr. M find it? One might believe he knew of this place simply because he was friends with Sly's father and Mick Sweeney, but what if that wasn't the case? We don't know much about Dr. M's past, nor Sly's father's past. All we know is that Sly's father was never such a good friend with Dr. M. Perhaps the father started losing trust in Dr. M, to a point where the Cooper vault was kept complete secret from him all throughout their adventures. If this place was kept secret, who perhaps revealed it to him? Clockwerk. A deal could have been struck. A rather dark one. Perhaps Dr. M had even more skeletons in the closet than we thought. In exchange of the location of the Thievius Raccoonus from Dr. M, Clockwerk would reveal the location of the Cooper vault. Clockwerk could have easily known of this place simply due to his nature, having the ability to fly across the world, to see things, to hear things, and a lot of them. Dr. M's twisted decision to reveal the location of the book cost the lives of 2 people that night, 2 parents who never got the chance to see their child grow up. You've probably noticed pieces of Clockwerk's dialogue sprinkled in throughout the video. These words in particular are heard while heading towards his head before his demise. Remember when we said Clockwerk is like a computer? All these words we see on screen, well, at least for a few of them, could very well be unchained memories, perhaps even fragments of his own sorrow. Data stored within that robotic brain of his. Speaking of brain, we never knew what happened to it in Sly 2. Although the bad guys managed to piece Clockwerk back together, there was never any mention of his brain. Although the pieces were put back together, it was Neela who took over the body, backstabbing Arpeggio and foiling his original plans. If Clockwerk remembers the Coopers always finding a way to beat him, then surely that memory or data must have been stored somewhere. His brain might not look like a typical brain, but these pieces of information are very much likely stored somewhere. With information or memories being backed up somewhere, what do you think could happen? Such data can be retrieved and reused. Within his lair or base of operations, we notice a bunch of similar looking body parts, almost like spare parts. If his memories have been backed up somewhere, then the gang perhaps has yet to see the end of Clockwerk. If his mind or memories fall into the wrong hands, then one could imagine Sly's nightmare being brought back to life, Clockwerk being rebuilt and more resilient than ever before. One could only imagine what type of psychological horrors Sly might face next. If we go back to these words being heard during our boss with the owl, one might start to wonder what some of these words even mean. One which personally always made me curious is the line about flowers. Let's go ahead and highlight that one. Another one would be feet together, and slow buttercups. Let's go ahead and highlight those as well. As for the other ones, Clockwerk had lived for centuries, so all these words about never sleeping, I will live, it's all about his will to stay alive. Other words such as energy, shift, number 7, all that can be tied to his programming. But looking back at the ones we highlighted, all these references to flowers, feet together, buttercups being an actual type of flower, they could be connected to someone he cared about or someone he took under his wing at some point in his life. Here's a thought. While trying to rescue Carmelita inside the gas chamber, Clockwerk mentions how empathy has always been the downfall of the Cooper clan. There could be some truth to that, seeing as how he's lived for centuries. Maybe there's deeper meaning behind that line of his. Say, a writer one day decides to re-explore that. Was Clockwerk projecting, one might think? Was empathy one of his own downfalls? Part of Clockwerk's psychology will always remain a secret hidden deep within the shadows. If one's lived for centuries, surely there's a bunch of untold stories. Some he remembers and some he perhaps refuses to remember. Who knows how many memories he's kept in that brain of his. A video was uploaded here on YouTube some time ago. It's a compilation of a lot of words you hear during our encounter with him. If you'd like to hear these words clearly, a link can be found in the description box below. With that said, thank you. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this type of content, perhaps you'd like to support the channel by liking the video and subscribing. As always, I've been Vivi, and until next time.